In most of the protests that I saw, it was always black people running around that were screaming, watch out for false agitators, watch out for agitators, make sure there are no bricks around, make sure that nobody's up to anything. It was always these black people that were running around trying to keep the crowds in check. And I think that says something. I think it's because they realize that at the end of the day, if the cops start going crazy, if shit starts getting out of hand in a city, it's not going to be the white kids from the suburb that get to drive home at the end of the night who are going to have to deal with it. It's going to be the black communities that are going to be disproportionately policed.
We say to y'all not to speak how you feel and say what you want to say. That's not what we said. We encourage that. But one, we gonna keep our social distance, and we're not gonna allow somebody in the crowd to throw some bullshit and then we feel the bulk of that. We're not allowing that.
Stand up.
Okay? That's the reality of what we're dealing with right now. All right? Like I said to all my white brothers and sisters, we appreciate y'all being out here and supporting us. But this is not y'all space. This is not your space. Period. We don't need this bullshit right here. Because what our reality is, when this shit is all said and done, when we wake up, we still gonna be black in America. Now that's not nothing against none of y'all. That's not what this is. That's not what I'm saying. But we're not gonna allow y'all to go up there and start causing chaos and confusion. It's just not gonna happen.
Well, I think you've created another straw man argument here, which is that these white people are taking charge and leading the violence or something.
That has nothing to do with what the people are out there for a good reason.
Hey, what y'all doing this for?
They're not doing that.
They all look mighty white to me. Only white people doing this fucking shit, man.
And it's not just white people, it's people who are not down for the same cause. Don't even need to say it's, because I'm sure it's not all white people. The woman with the megaphone. The moment when you realize your cause is a fraud.
A riot is not anything like a protest. A riot is something that's a part of our emotional evolution as animals, as primates. And when it happens, we undergo a mob mentality, and there ceases to be any logic associated with the actions of the mob.
We can be better protesters, though, right? We can discourage.
No. Hold on. You're asking people who have undergone a mob mentality to behave themselves.
Was that what happened on January 6th, too?
And nonsensical.
Tell you this is not a black woman who's putting Black Lives Matter. Don't spray stuff on here when they gonna blame black people for this, and black people didn't do it. They gonna blame that on us. Y'all are part of the problem.
Yeah, because you chose the wrong cause.
That we didn't do that.
You need your own cause. You need to separate.
Stuff like this ain't right. Stuff like this ain't right. That's what the problem is. We out here standing together peacefully, protesting without any problems. You got people of all races spraying on buildings talking about Black Lives Matter. That ain't even us. Push the gate. Stop. It doesn't matter.
This is what it looks like when your cause is co-opted.
No, but when you do that, they don't come after you. They come after us.
I didn't do that. Stop doing it. Stop doing it. Don't push that gate, bro. Do it again and see what's going to happen. We're going to kill you anyway.
See, they try to use fear to control you.
They're going to kill us if y'all don't chill. That's what they already do. That's the worries over here.
They're not killing you. You have no right to tell us what to behave. Because it's not you. It's him. It's me. It's not. It's not. It's not.
The whole point in this moment, but in the long term,
what do you mean?
Again, you're asking people who have undergone a mob mentality to behave themselves, and that's just illogical and nonsensical.
I think all y'all are the problem, not just the people out there doing the violence. If you associate with a group that does not denounce the violence, if you associate with a group that does not get permits for their protests, if you associate with a group that associates with protests that happen at night, you are also part of the problem. You need to choose a different cause. See, when you put the color of someone's skin or any other identifying feature above love of country, it falls apart. You have problems. It makes it really easy. You make yourself vulnerable because you're putting yourself out here. This cause is for Black people. And you wrap up the cause in the color of your skin. And really, it's a lump of coal inside, a bunch of garbage. But because you have the color of the skin wrapped around the package of the protest or the organization, you think it's a good thing. It's Black Lives Matter. Isn't that good? But inside of it is poison. No, so it's not good. I don't judge a book by its cover. See, if you didn't solely focus on Black lives, if you didn't solely focus on a democratic movement, meaning you had Republicans in the street with you, libertarians in the street with you, that would force you to change your method of protests to align with the needs of everyone. Like if you were to get someone like me out there, you're not going to get me out there with this chaos and nonsense. So you would have to reframe the whole thing. Then you would have the power of, we got Republicans, Libertarians, Democrats, everybody on the rainbow under us. Those people writing whatever on the walls, that didn't have nothing to do with us. But you make it easy for them to co-opt it when you focus on skin color. Because now I can go to the wall, graffiti BLM, and I'm actually a positive member of society. I'm actually helping. But no, you're not. You're hurting. You saw the pain in the true protesters, the true people who are out there for the right reasons, caught up in a bad cause used as a pawn.
News come on, they gonna say we did that. We didn't do that.
I go by Osiris. This is Stuck in the Middle. Thank you for joining. So there's a lot going on. The jury selection started today, but then got postponed. I'm not getting into the court stuff. I started this channel based on the Black Lives Matter movement, and I slowly saw it starting last year and snowballing really out of control. Went to the website, saw some disturbing stuff on there. Everyone's been talking about it. I haven't done a video on it, and this really is one of the main reasons I'm doing this channel. Because I look at this and I have 2 young boys, and I'm not going to be in the streets. It's just not going to happen. I'm a family guy now. I'm not, maybe if I was younger, but nah, not right now. But so what's my thing? I can get my thoughts out there, formulate my thoughts, talk to people. Maybe it's a waste of time. Maybe I'm just bloviating, but this is my bit right now of what I'm doing to speak out against this. NBC News reports Minneapolis prepares for potential unrest ahead of trial in the killing of George Floyd. A quote from an anonymous city council member: "We know that this trial is going to reignite the same kind of emotional and social response that we saw last summer." So nothing is for sure, but I think that's a fair statement. They have turned this into a business. So when this trial is back in the news, we're back in business until the next event, shooting, or whatever the case may be. They are, Black Lives Matter, back in business. Obviously, this is the trial of former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin. Here are some thoughts from some residents in the article. "I'm worried that he's going to get off free and riots starting back up," one resident, Preston McDade Davis, 35, said. "The city is calm but getting tense, and everything hinges on the verdict," said Rayford Dixon, 59, a barber. "Anything under a 10-year sentence will cause Minneapolis to go into an uproar," Dixon said. "They're going to have a problem because they know he'll be out in no time with good behavior." So what we're seeing is trial in the court of public opinion. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know if they are lawyers, but they're not speaking on law in those quotes. They're speaking off of emotions and thoughts and preconceived notions. And unless you're really in the case, which hasn't started yet, unless you're in that courtroom, you don't have all the information. You're not privy to everything. So I want to take a step back and review why now this is back in the news, and we're probably going to see a lot more oppressed, not just in Minneapolis. I used to live out there, not just there, but in across the country. Last year went across the globe. We'll see what happens. I hope everything stays peaceful. If you do choose to go out to protest, Godspeed, and I wish you peace and safety. You may have seen this clip that went around last year. This is actually a video from 2015 where Patrisse Cullors, she was answering a question about who she is, what she does, and she talked about being a trained Marxist.
Was concerned or is concerned that that there's a lack of perhaps ideological direction.
I think that the criticism is helpful. We actually do have an ideological frame. Myself and Alicia in particular are trained organizers. We are trained Marxists. We are super versed on sort of ideological theories.
So there are so many terms that are being thrown around: fascist, racist, Marxist, communist, socialist, and these words are being used as weapons, shields. And what I have to do is I have to listen to what someone says, then look at their actions, and then determine what that really means. So when we look at Patrisse here, and she says that she is a trained Marxist, that is a serious statement. When we go back to Marxism, let me show you the parts of Marxism that I see reflected in the Black Lives Matter movement and why this movement is so cringe-worthy. There are two main pieces that I see reflected from Marxism that I see reflected in Black Lives Matter. First, the destruction of capitalism. I know there's probably some socialists or people who do not believe in capitalism watching this video, perfectly fine. But just understand that under the guise of black skin, under the guise of concern over police brutality against black people or minorities, underneath that, they don't go down the street marching that most of the time. But this is about destroying capitalism. And whether you agree with capitalism being destroyed or not, I am a capitalist. I do believe in capitalism. There is no system of government in the world that is perfect. There's no system of government in the world that cares for all people, meaning eliminating the haves and have-nots. That is impossible. That will always exist. It doesn't matter what form of government you have. But understand the destruction of capitalism is the destruction of our country, is a destruction of what we believe in. That is a painful process. And that goes to number two, from what I see in Marxism and what I see in Black Lives Matter, is violence. Marxism justifies violence as a means to an end. You could use the term by any means necessary. So to destroy the fabric of our country with violence or without, whatever it needs to be done, it is to change the country because we do not have equality. So let me run that again. Destroy capitalism you're not going to destroy capitalism without using violence. It just won't happen. So destroy capitalism using violence, and I want to think the best of people. I think they have good intentions, and the intentions of destroying capitalism, using violence if needed, is to strive for equality. That is the justifiable ends, the means, or whatever it takes. So if their goal is to destroy capitalism, if their goal is for equality, why is there such a hyper focus on the relationship between police and black people? Because the means justify the ends. If what activates people to take to the streets is the lack of trust between black Americans and the police, then it's justified. Not only justified under Marxism, it is intelligent and it is necessary. So even if the end goal is much bigger than the relationship between police officers and black Americans, even if the relationship between police officers and Black Americans is not as bad as it is portrayed to be, that doesn't matter. The means justify the ends. It is a necessary leverage that they're using, that lack of trust between Black people and the police, to accomplish their goals. So they want to make you feel, as a Black person, they want to make you feel like if you go outside, you've got to be afraid of the police.
I know people get tired of hearing me say it, but we are scared as Black people in America. Black men, Black women, Black kids, we are terrified. Because you don't know. You have no idea. You have no idea how that cop that day left the house. You don't know if he woke up on the good side of the bed. You don't know if he woke up on the wrong side of the bed. You don't know if he had an argument at home with a significant other. You know, if one of his kids said something crazy to him and he left the house steaming. Or maybe he just left the house saying that today is going to be the end for one of these Black people. My prayers goes out to that family and that community. But I got nothing nice to say about those cops at all.
Whatever reason, that's what triggered on social media. If it was something else, they would have went with something else. But that's what captured the hearts, mind, and souls of people. And I see how. You saw what happened with George Floyd, and it's hard to watch. It's traumatizing. It breaks your heart. The whole situation. Like, why would a guy need to use a counterfeit money? Why do you resist? Why did he resist arrest? Why did the police officer do that when he was obviously in pain and asking for help? And it's everybody's watching it. We're all watching these tough moments. The one for me that was the toughest by far was Fernando Castile. So that's what Black Lives Matter is doing, is using that thing that you feel in your heart. When I watched the Fernando, I was actually living in Minnesota at that time. There was another Minnesota killing. When Fernando Castile was like, officer, I just want to be up front. I don't remember the exact video. I haven't seen it in a while. It's just so tough to watch. He was trying to do everything right and got shot. Does that mean that that's what happens every time? Does that mean it's that when you look at all the issues in the Black community, that this is the hill that we should go on to die for, to fight for? Is the relationship between Black people and police more important than the lack of education and educational standards going on? And regardless of skin color, in poor areas, you don't get the same education. Is the police issue more important? Of course it's not. It's not even close. There are reasons why, beyond even racism, why Black Americans might have more interactions with the police. More interactions with the police increase your likelihood of bad things to happen. So if what activates non-Black people to take to the streets is leveraging white guilt or non-Black guilt into joining the movement, it's okay to take advantage of that. If you're a non-Black person and you see that video with George Floyd or Fernando Castile or whichever one tugs at your heartstrings, maybe all of them do. Black Lives Matter is here to leverage that guilt or leverage that hurt that you have as a non-Black American to get you to help destroy capitalism, to help you get equality as they define it. And they can take advantage of it and manipulate all of us, because it's all for a good cause. I don't buy that. That's not going to work for me. Capitalism is not evil. People are evil. Religion is not evil. People can use religion for evil things. I'm not buying it. If you think capitalism is the reason for inequality, you are misguided. There will always be a fight for resources on this earth. I don't care what form of government you're in. If you want to find out what being a trained Marxist is about, I'm reading off of Stephen Hicks, a philosopher, and I quote, "One question we raised was why Marx and Engels rejected achieving socialism by democratic and reformist methods. Why the insistence upon violent revolution? Here's Marx in an 1848 newspaper article. I quote, "There is only one way in which the murderous death agonies of the old society and the bloody birth throes of the new society can be shortened, simplified, and concentrated, and that way is revolutionary terror." I'm going to stop, pause. This is evil. This is sick stuff. Some people are into that. I am completely anti-violence. I tweeted the other day something like, I'll put the overlay of it, something to the effect of violence is the language of the lazy or depraved. And this is depravity. This is sickness right here. And that's why you don't hear Black Lives Matter denounce violence very often. You'll hear people who are in, like in the beginning of this clip, people who are in it for the right reasons denouncing it, but you won't really see the organization release a statement. They're for the violence. There's a reason why. That's why. One set of reasons is about, this is Stephen Hicks's response after the quote. One set of reasons is about impatience with political change in a democracy or republic. To be successful in those systems, socialists must first get organized, but that will take time. And they will lose elections. Finally, they'll win some elections, but still be a minority in the lower legislative chamber. After more time, they'll get a majority in the lower chamber, but the legislation will be vetoed by the upper chamber. Eventually, the socialists may also get a majority in the upper chamber, but their bills will be vetoed by the president. At the same time, the education and journalism establishments will be against socialism or become reformist slowly. Even if socialists overcome all of the above obstacles, the rich bourgeois will bribe whomever to stay in power, or they'll use the police and military to suppress threats. Who has the patience to endure all that? That is what you're in the streets for. Don't think you're in the streets for Black lives. You're in the streets for that impatience to change our government under democracy or a representative republic. Yeah, I understand it's difficult. There's always going to be a Mitch McConnell or whoever out there, a Nancy Pelosi, an establishment to overcome if you believe in these socialist views. And I'm glad for that, because otherwise, this wouldn't be the same country. Agree or disagree? You see, I don't agree that the ends justify the means. That is a sick ideology. If you think manipulating non-Black people into guilt, if you think manipulating Black people into being scared about the police justifies the end of destroying capitalism and getting your depraved view of equality, count me out. Don't even look at me. I'm not a part of it. I will respect your right to protest, but I'm not joining in. You are not mentally sound if you think those means justify the ends. Something's wrong with you mentally. Get help. This is sick stuff here. You see, we don't see equality the same way. I see equality starting with self-accountability. So I put in a certain amount of work or effort. And I want equality to mean when I put in a certain amount of work and someone else puts in a certain amount of work, there is not an identity that sways things in my direction or someone else's direction. It doesn't guarantee success. That's not how life works. It doesn't guarantee that I put in this amount of work, someone else puts in the same amount of work, that our probability is the same of success. No, it doesn't. That is not how life works. That's not how life should work. It's impossible for life to work that way. There are varying amount of factors, including luck, that you cannot control, beside racism or anything else identifying. I see equality as freedom of speech, meaning Black Lives Matter, if they have the right protest and if they have the right permit and they're protesting at the right time, that they have the right to protest, just like a white supremacist group does. or a person has a right to be racist and to spew their racism. In my opinion, they should have that right to spew racism on Twitter, public platforms. They can give you the tools if you don't want to see it, but they have the free speech to do it. That doesn't mean you keep your job. So if you're racist at work, you don't get to keep your job necessarily. If you go into a private business or into a private location, someone has the ability to kick you out for being racist, white supremacist, or for being a Black Lives Matter protesting. You go to a restaurant, we're not here for protests. So if you're in the restaurant protesting, get out. I have the right to do that. Same with any other groups. That's equality. Equality for me is simple. Martin Luther King Jr. said it. Judge me by what I do. Judge me by my actions, not any other identifying factor. We have a plethora of identifying factors out there right now. That's fine. Just don't judge me primarily by any one of them. And no one else should be judged primarily by any one of them. You see, they see equality as revenge for past acts.
If somebody decides to loot a Gucci or a Macy's or a Nike, because that makes sure that that person eats. That makes sure that that person has clothes. That's reparations. That is reparations. Anything they want to take it, because these businesses have insurance. They're going to get their money back. My people aren't getting anything.
But on Twitter, Reverend Jesse Jackson called the looting humiliating, embarrassing, and morally wrong.
Jesse Jackson has nothing to do with Black Lives Matter. Jesse Jackson was not there for the creation of Black Lives Matter. Jesse Jackson can keep his opinions to himself. Do they keep us safe? No! Do they keep us safe? No! Who keeps us safe?
We keep us safe.
Who keeps us safe?
We keep us safe.
Who keeps us safe?
We keep us safe.
We say these police.
These police.
These police.
These police.
You see, they see equality as revenge for past acts. We aren't on the same page. We don't see life the same way. We're not on the same team. Just because the color of our skin might be the same doesn't mean we're on the same team. We have the same goals. That's not my goal. It's not revenge. Doesn't mean I'm not for making things right that were wronged, but I'm not here for revenge, and that's not going to be my primary goal. My primary goal is going to be self-accountability, and everything else stems and branches off of that. You see, as soon as I say that, you see we're not there in the same wavelength. Because when I say self-accountability, that takes the control from them. How do you scare someone when if I say I'm accountable, that means I know right from wrong. I learn from mistakes. I try to minimize my interactions with police, for example. Or if I do have an interaction with the police, I want to be as respectful as possible. I teach my children to be respectful as possible. That takes the control from them. How are they going to destroy capitalism if they can't control you? How are they going to say violence is okay if I'm saying self-accountability? You heard it in the clip in the beginning. Don't blame me for violence. Things have gotten so bad.
A riot is not anything like a protest. A riot is something that's a part of our emotional evolution as animals, as like primates. And when it happens, we undergo a mob mentality, and there ceases to be any logic associated with the actions of the mob.
We can be better protesters, though, right? Like we can discourage.
No. Hold on. You're asking people who have undergone a mob mentality to behave themselves.
So when I say self-accountability, they cringe. When they say Black Lives Matter, I cringe. We don't have the same principles. We don't see eye to eye. They are using the color of my skin as a shield to put forth their ideology, their practices that they're not willing and they don't have the patience to go through the democratic process with, which if you go through the process, you might not win anything. You might not get anything. So they're going to use the color of my skin as a shield? You're going to give the United States a poison pill and wrap it up in the same color of my skin, we are not friends. That's why they're okay with Antifa being bodyguards. A group that has nothing to do with Black lives, is a group that is anti-fascism, is what they're supposed to be at their core, and anarchists.
What's the relationship between Antifa and BLM?
So in 2020, there was in my view, a fusion of the two movements. And I saw that most clearly in Antifa Black Bloc volunteering as armed security militia type groups for BLM events. As of right now, they share a common ideology in their opposition to militant opposition to law enforcement, to the rule of law, to property rights, to the right in America, the conservative right. So they have enough common enemies and common goals right now that they are working together. They're in unison for the most part. And Antifa's chants are no different from BLM chants. The graffiti is no different. And they have a common enemy in taking down and destroying the founding ideals of America.
Why would you have a group like that be your bodyguard to do anything unless you agree with them? The only way they're allowed to do this is because we, again, are putting identity over country. There is zero chance of me letting that go on without speaking my piece. I think more people need to speak up. If you agree with me, don't take my word for anything. I'm here to be challenged, to get better, to make corrections, to make adjustments. Those are signs of strength under the right circumstances. If you agree with everything that I said here, and you still support Black Lives Matter, help me understand why. I don't have your perspective. I could be completely missing something. Let me know what you think. Thanks a lot for listening. I appreciate it. I feel better. Got that off my chest. Take care.
Close my eyes, envision a sunrise. I'm soon to be extinct in a minute. When the sun dies, she cries enough to shower the ghetto and wash away the evidence in a sense. Like the devil bought a bunch of property up top. Decided to call this new spot the block. Not superior to most. Here to help them see clear through what I wrote. If you could do the same, imagine what we could change. If you could fly the plane, imagine where you could go. And if you fly solo and control the game, just imagine when you can blow. My soul explain everything with more range than a satellite. When I grab a mic, appetite larger than a family of giants. I find gold in a mind like a Mayan. Apply my science to your daily routine. It might seem like I'm preaching and such, like you need me and shit, but it's just a preview I'm leaving you with. Feel it's like it all fall into place. And when I fall into place, erase everything you already knew. Spit 1200 and finale giving you something new. Listen, hit it, don't hit it, live, hit it for real. It's like it all fall into place. And when I fall into place, erase everything you already knew. Spit 1200 and finale giving you something new. Listen, hit it, long, hit it, live, hit it. Come on. It's like a penitentiary with a pen. My automatic century like automatic weapons, so they got it in for me. Thought escapes, incriminating, facing days behind bars for just a couple of bars. But I aim for the stars like paparazzi. Don't mean it's hip-hop can be the only couple in charge. Like Charles, I charge radiant arm like American Armed Forces rainy alarm. While every rapper use a Trojan horse to get in the game, I'm using audible thoughts to be up on the chart. I love bank and apparel, and I got street smarts like Frank Nicotero, but I gotta keep it thorough. Yeah, come on. So if sleep is a cousin of death, hope I reach everybody. I don't wanna see the world, but the rest is inches to making it. Only inches to greatness. A roll of the dice, then think twice. It's like it all fall into place, and when I fall into place, erase everything you already knew. Spit 1200 and finale giving you something new. Listen with it, long with it, live with it. real. It's like it all fall into place. So when I fall into place, erase everything you already knew. Spit 1200 and finale giving you something new. Listen with it, learn with it, live with it. Come on. I ain't trying to be the one that can move, but don't make moves. And they can say shit, but they ain't saying shit. Think he playing, but he playing himself. How your CD gon' play on the shelf? What I ride like rails with the rhyme, like Braille for the blind. On a mission to find a solution like cats with dirty eye contacts. Coin my signature flow like Abe Lincoln coined his signature dough. But damn, I wanna give you the impression you and me in a session is realer than life. The price I had to pay for MCing, you gotta come back a million times in a million lives just to barely break even. Here and alive, not here to relieve another rapper who ain't seen 25. Now what's gonna happen when I'm almost up there? If you live in the past, you might get stuck there. Lesson number one, it's like it all fall into place. So when I fall into place, erase everything you already knew. Spit 1200 and finale giving you something new. Listen with it, learn with it, live with it, for real. It's like it all fall into place. So when I fall into place, erase everything you already knew. Spit 1200 and finale giving you something new. Listen with it, learn with it, live with it. Come on,